Series 2, the idea of the nuts and bolts from Warringah Chamber's perspective is, as we're going through COVID, you obviously know that a lot of businesses are suffering and dealing with a whole bunch of stuff getting thrown at them. So we wanted to do some information sessions, some education. We like to do that anyway. But in COVID, we're really aware that it had to be focused on stuff that businesses can use today when they're out there trying to deal with the changes that are going on in the world. All right. So in the last season, which you'll see coming up on YouTube soon, we had things like communication techniques, empathic or empathetic communication techniques, how to make your business survive, revive, and thrive. Did I get that right, Gordon? I'll just pretend you're nodding. I can see your photo. I'll pretend it's nodding. We had some mediation stuff for if you're dealing with your landlords, and we talked about change management. So all those sorts of things are things that you can walk away and do something with tomorrow. Okay, so that's what we're here for. It's sponsored by Warringah Chamber of Commerce, and we're really lucky to have a bunch of sponsors that are helping us out. The reason that we can keep going doing these things is because these guys give us time, energy, and money. So we just want to make sure that we give them a little plug at the start of this. These guys have generally been sponsors for a number of years. And the reason we can keep going where some other networking groups and particularly chambers have had to slow down what they're doing is because we've had this level of support behind the scenes. So thanks to these guys. All right. Now, what am I talking about? Well, my name's Matt Tanks. I work for, or I am at the moment, CoMotion Learning and Change. What's the whole point of that? Well, I grew up in HR since about 2001, working for big guys, so Woolies and Dick Smith and those sorts of businesses, working through the ranks of HR, so everything from interviewing and recruiting checkout operators. I've got to be very careful not to say checkout chicks these days, but checkout operators and night fillers, all the way through to organizing, being the HR guy for the execs in the IT department in the back rooms. So I've had a bit of run the gamut of HR in a whole bunch of different areas. Usually when you say you work for Woolies, people go, well, that's great. Which store were you in and how many trolleys can you push? But when you're in HR, you're actually dealing with anywhere up to 8 different businesses, and you're dealing with everything from frontline staff, sometimes warehouse staff, all the way through to your help desks, your corporate support, your risk and safety, other HR people, which they're the worst. Sorry, Kylie. They're the hardest to deal with, aren't we? All the way through to the guys running the company, right? So you get to see a whole bunch of different things happen. And in that, as well as for the last 7-ish years when I left the Woolies world, I've been out on my own as in different versions, but as CoMotion, helping small businesses deal with training and development and HR issues as well. And the whole way along that, you see some pretty standard things coming up when it comes to training. It's too hard. I can do it better myself. I'm a training manager. I know what I'm doing. I don't need your help, HR boy. All those kind of things come up. So what I wanted to do today is just talk a bit about all of that and how to make training, even if you are doing it yourself, because you probably are doing a really good job yourself. The gap sometimes is that the people don't realize that you are. So how do we turn that whole, I train people on the job, into something that they realize they're getting trained, not just throwing stuff at them, right? So that's what this is all about. Plus, we're in the middle of COVID and we've got a government that's throwing money at stuff. So when you have a government throwing money at stuff, really interesting things happen in the training world. So I just wanted to point out a couple of things and give you some tips where you're about to get flooded with spam from training companies saying, free courses, come and get your people trained here. And a lot of businesses are about to take up free courses and not realize what they're getting into. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. Promised it only go for about 15 minutes, and I think I've done about 8 minutes on the intro. So let's get moving. My motto at CoMotion Learning and Change is all about guiding people through business and personal change. I'm a training guy, I'm a HR guy, but essentially if I'm training you in something, I'm asking you to change. So there's a really close bond between training and development and change management. So I do both of those things at the moment. And I've told you guys before, everything from helping small businesses and charities dealing with how the hell do I train my people through to running relatively large scale change management processes for government organizations as well. All right, let's get past this. It's just a bit of information to see. These are the people that I've worked with in the past. Big business background, but my heart's on the Northern Beaches and my heart's in small business. So just showing that we've got people that we work with across the spectrum. All right, so training. As much as everybody loves talking about training, why is it really important right now? Well, 2 reasons. This guy and this guy. I think you guys know the 2 people that we're talking about, or the 2 entities we're talking about. Yes, I just referred to our Prime Minister as an entity. Like I just mentioned, COVID's ripping things apart and sending people a little bit loopy. Jobs are being lost in some areas and gained in some other areas. People are losing jobs that they've had for a long time. Sorry, I've just seen the chat. Philemon, I was a checkout chick once too. And Gordon, the Prime Minister, is the one on the left of the screen with the glasses. All right, thanks for your input, guys. You can unmute and ask those sorts of questions too, just in case you feel like it. I've got to keep this under 15 minutes, don't I? Keep going. So because COVID's doing the COVID thing and we're reacting to it the way we are, leaders need to be showing that they are helping people. And so we've had the job keeper and the job maker and the job taker and the job spacer and we're up to job trainer, which is millions and millions of dollars getting thrown out into the States. And then the States, hello, Kylie's daughter. And then the States.
Actually, son. He's got long hair. Say hi, Kirby. Hello. Okay, sorry to distract you.
That's all right. Both my boys have long hair. And yeah, multiple times I've been, oh, your daughters are beautiful. And I'm like, thanks. All right. Back to these guys. So the money's getting thrown out there. What happens with that is that a lot of potentially dodgy operators jump in whenever the government's throwing money around. All right. So right now it's really important, but training's always important, right? So just a couple of really quick stats. So, and these are pre-COVID, so bear with me a little bit, but 1 in 10 workers want to participate in more training. That's coming from the ABS. Deloitte tells us that 40% of jobs have a high probability of being automated in the next 10, 15 years. So where are we going to put people and how are we going to make sure they're okay to do the next job that they're going to do once the robots take over? 5 years is the half-life of learned skills. So once you learn something, there's a whole bunch of graphs on your retention going up and down, but overall, you lose half of it every 5 years. So ongoing training is super critical, right? 47% of people won't join an organization if they don't offer formal training. And this is from Hayes. HRD, which is Human Resources Director magazine, tells us that 72% of people are looking for meaning in their work. And why is that in a training thing? Well, I also work with people that are talking to not-for-profits all the time about culture of organizations and how we give people more meaning in their work. by giving a higher purpose and all those sorts of things. And the reason I put this in here is training as such is the wrong word. It's development. And when we're developing our people, we need to give them access to a whole bunch of different things that can help them grow at work and as a person. And if you're helping people grow and giving them the opportunity to help other people grow or change the community, then that's the meaning in the work, right? So that's why I sneaked that in here. All right. So as I talk about this stuff, I don't want to just talk about employees as such, but you're also important in this mix. So I want you to think about what works for you in all of this stuff as well. Right. So question, and feel free to unmute and yell if you want. What's been your best learning experience? Anybody want to have a crack?
You mean during this or in life in general, or more
life
context
in,
to the question?
Life in general.
Oh, never take a laxative and a sleeping tablet at the same time.
So life experience is what you're saying?
Yeah.
You didn't learn that from a training room. That's why
context.
Yeah, you didn't learn that from a training room.
From a training room, okay.
Hey, Phil, what was the outcome of that?
Yeah, I sent your phone a private message.
And this is why we have video editing software, guys. Thank you. You're awesome. I said unmute. It's my fault. No, but so when people see a HR guy doing this sort of talk, they're like, well, he's talking about training courses, right? And I'm that HR guy that goes, no, let's talk about how people actually learn. And it's not in a room all the time, right? There's space for that, but it's not always that. So I genuinely want you to think about what's been your best learning experience. And as much as it was a joke, Phil, making mistakes and stuffing up and jumping in well, I don't want to say jumping in the deep end after what you just said, but getting thrown in the deep end at work and all those sorts of things are actually valid parts of a learning experience, right? So I put a second question up there, but again, Phil, I'm going to keep you on mute. So what life experiences led to your biggest breakthrough and change? Anyone want to jump in on that?
I think when you do fail, that's your biggest, that's when you have your light bulb moment of go, okay, I stuffed that up completely. let's unpack that and figure out what went wrong and, why and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah. And dealing with the consequences of that. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you have somebody who's allowing you to fail and will be there to support you and help guide you through it. And sometimes the learning is because you actually do screw up a hell of a lot. So either way. All right. So another question for you guys. I told you this would be interactive. How do you like to learn? Besides life experience?
Participation rather than just being taught or talked to.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm a kinesthetic learner, so I need to touch, feel, and do.
You're a kinesthetic learner. I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah. Well, you got your three learning types: your visual, audio, kinesthetic, and and in a room as a teacher, I dare say you also need to have each one of them available for your students. Because that's why I'm no good at school, and that's why school was no good with me, because sitting at the room listening to a teacher done absolutely nothing for me. So all of my learning came a lot later.
I'm so glad you're here, Phil. Trainer 101, one of the first things you learn as a trainer is the visual, audio, kinesthetic, and then you sit around for the next 20 years going, yes, I understand visual learners. The point I wanted to bring up is, we remember that, and there's three things, everybody. It's easy to remember three things. It's also, I'm going to bleep myself a little bit when the video comes in, but to an extent, it's bullshit. It's not bullshit. It's just not the entire bullshit, if that makes sense. The three learning styles that we talk about actually came from a guy who created or who researched how we learn, and the fact that there are learning intelligences. So not even just styles, but learning intelligences. So the way our brain takes in information. And out of these 9, people cherry-picked the visual, audio, and kinesthetic, right? And I'm not going to do a full training course on all of them here, but it's worth having a look at. As much as I sound cheesy saying I blog, I have done 2 blogs in my life, and one of them's about this. And I linked to a bunch of videos and stuff about it, but it's not just visual, audio, kinesthetic. It's about how do you respond to music and rhythm. As a trainer, I've got to think about the pacing and the rhythm of how I'm saying things. Or do I get you to learn, like kids learn from a rhyme? I still remember stuff from a kid's book when I was like 8 because it rhymed and it dug in there. You remember a song because it rhymes and it has some music to draw you back to that space you were when you heard it, right? So it's not just as simple as visual, audio, kinesthetic. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on here. Everything from that, the kinesthetic is in there. Interpersonal is about us. We learn better from chatting and having and interacting in a conversation, or spatial, where it's like, I forget it. I just need to see the big picture and be able to visualize where everything goes on the map, right? So 2 things I wanted to say about that. Apart from visual, audio, kinesthetic is bullshit, there's more to it. The other thing you got to realize is that these things kick in and out. So yeah, you're a kinesthetic learner, Phil, but everyone is. To be honest, everyone learns better by doing. Phil, you and I also have really good conversations / arguments. And we both come away from those arguments going, I picked something up out of this. I've changed my opinion, or at least you've given me something to think about. So that's actually interpersonal style, or under the old visual, audio, kinesthetic, that's an audio thing, right? So you actually have multiple dimensions to this, and it may kick in depending on what you're learning or what day it is or how much coffee you've had and all that sort of stuff, right? So it's not as simple as going, we need a training course and we need visual, audio, kinesthetic, otherwise I'm out. All right. So it's really cool once you start digging into this stuff. And there's just, it opens up a whole lot of possibilities. So Phil, you're off mute. Do you want to start an argument now?
No, I actually agree. Yes, it definitely intertwines and plays and under context, different contexts and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, interested to hear more about this one.
Yeah, I mean, for you in particular, we started chatting the other day even about what you think about beyond physical stuff to spiritual stuff. And this guy came up with existential as one of them, right? Where you start thinking about even the spiritual angle to things, right? So amongst other things, but it's all in there. Some people just learn better. We can do the same course, but they learn better if we do it outside in the bush, right? So when I'm working with Sam up at the Ben, we got the kids out in the bush doing exactly the same stuff as you might do in a classroom, but we're out there. Okay. I could talk about this all day, and I've probably already gone over my 15, 20 minutes, whatever. But there's more to training than just training. So how do we make this happen? And the good news for managers, if I'm sitting down and talking to a manager, my conversation with them is that you're actually already training your staff. You're already developing your people. The snap is, how do we not document it because it's a boring word, but how do we turn that into a process where you know that that's happening and you can prove to them that it's happening? So you both go, oh yeah, I'm getting developed here. I'm engaged. I'm not going to talk through all of these, but this is the kind of thing that I would come out and have a chat to you about. And it can look really boring and have spreadsheets and stuff. But what we do is the first discussion isn't about how bad the staff are or what they need to learn or where you wish they were. It's actually sitting down and going, what are the things, forget about a person for a moment, but what are the things that need to be here? So hard skills is your technical skills, computer programs and all that sort of stuff, qualifications and all those things that you have to do in the job. But then soft skills. So particularly for small businesses, we end up talking about behaviors here. We talk about leadership here. We end up talking about values here, because with small businesses and a charity I'm working with at the moment, everybody knows that companies should have values, but they don't understand how it all links into, how do I put a value on an appraisal system and all this? How do I performance manage someone to that? And all this sort of stuff. So our first discussion is sit down and go, what are the key things? The hard skills and the soft skills before you do anything else. And if I come and talk to you, I literally just have a spreadsheet there with people's names down the side, skills across the top, and then we start talking and rating people and figuring out, defining what each of those terms mean, so that we can come up with a bit of a structure, right? It's a boring HRE chat if you think about it that way, but when we dig into it, I'll sit there and go, innovation's one of your key behaviors that you want in your team. What does innovation mean to you? And then the manager sits there and goes, and if you can't describe it, then your team can't describe it. And when you sit down at the end of the year to do an appraisal on them and go, you're just not that innovative. And they go, well, yes, I am. And you sit there having that argument like a couple of 3-year-olds. So this is about defining it, communicating it to your people, so then we can measure it a little bit. All right. And I know you guys are all into, have your process and get things working in a way that's measurable. This is a way to do the soft skill, HRE, fluffy stuff in a measurable way. All right. So then you come up with a rating scale, good, bad, ugly, needs development, should be fired, all those sorts of things. And you come up with a bit of a rating scale so you can see where people fit. And if you're not a numbers person, you do a stoplight and make it colorful. So now if I'm having a look at this, red means we're bad at it. Green means they're good. Orange means they need a little bit of work. So if you're a manager looking at this, where are you going to put your time and energy? Anyone want to have a crack?
Red.
The reds. Yeah. So there's 2 ways to look at it. You can look at it horizontal and go, well, out of all of these people, if I'm going to spend some time on somebody, I really need to put some effort into Alex right now. There's another way to look at it where you go, Jane's green across the board. Jane's the next leader of the company, so we need some other development for Jane as well. So that's one way to look at it. But this really highlights, okay, Alex is the person and this is why. And then if I'm going to send the whole team to something, I'm going to sort out an innovation course. Because what people usually do is, Alex sucks at change, so we should do a change course for everybody. And then, 5 of your 6 staff get ticked off at you and annoyed that they're getting called out for a day when it's not worth it to them, right? So I'm seeing chats come up. Who's dodgy? Phil's dropped out. Sorry,
I think that was about your stats. You wrote it back when you were doing your stats.
Oh, right. Okay. Sorry. Fair enough. It only just pinged me then. Well, here he comes. He's coming back in. All right, mate. So once you figured out who needs help, then we talk about a 70-20-10 principle. Some people don't like this, and there's as much of an argument against this as there is for it, but it's a simple way to get started. So that's why I talk about it, right? And all the arguments against it are some guys that created another system that basically do the same thing, but just don't have the numbers. So when you're developing your staff, now that we know that Alex needs help in a lot of things, or we know that the whole team needs help in innovation, then you go, well, how do we train them? Or how do we develop them? And you naturally go, well, let's look out there for an innovation course. But we've already discussed the fact that no, none of us want to do that. So what we recommend usually is breaking down your development options into 3 chunks. On job, social, and then formal. And the reason we say 70-20-10 is out of 100% of your training time or development plan for the person, you learn best by doing, because you're a kinesthetic person, aren't you, Phil? So doing is the on-job learning. So how do we make that happen? And this is just a couple of examples. I've got by the time I finish this list in a training room, we've literally got 100 different things to select from as a menu. But things like having a buddy or doing job rotation, make sure that everybody knows all the areas in the business, getting on special projects, doing some research themselves and presenting back to the team. People don't realize that that's a legitimate form of development. If you tell them to go research something, they're like, what the hell? You're supposed to be training me. Or delegating staff for tasks. So all of that stuff.
Sorry to interrupt you. Matt, is that kind of like when kids get school projects, you know, where they go out and research something, then they present it to the class?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I just recognize the value of that in a different way. Yeah, thanks.
And part of that is, like we said, learn from mistakes. Maybe it's not present it back to the whole team so that you look like an idiot if you get it wrong. But, go learn about this thing and come back to me. I'm not going to dump on you everything. You go learn about it. So as an adult, the way we learn and the difference between adult learning and child learning is really that we have more things to build on, more experiences and more knowledge. And it's much easier to learn when you have something to link it to, right? So sending somebody out to do a research topic and come back, even if they screw it up, at least they've got their brain into gear on it. And then when you're talking to them about it, they go, oh, that relates to this and that. And they start drawing the links, and it's a better learning experience. Right? But you've got to have this conversation with your staff. Otherwise, some people can sit there and go, no, you're the boss. You're supposed to train me. You're supposed to send me on the course. So that's why you've got to have a really good open discussion about all of this. But then we talk about social or relationship development. So coaching, mentoring, or going on networking programs or coming to the chamber chats. They're all valid ways of developing your staff. And then out of 100%, then we go only about 10% really should be around courses, workshops, and all that sort of stuff. 70-20-10 is not a hard rule. It's a principle, right? And this is where people get hung up on it. It's not about saying you have to break it down like that. It's about saying people learn best when they're actively involved in it and have something to tie it to. So whatever you're doing, the biggest chunk should be online, on-job active learning. And sending people to courses should be the minimum. Yep.
Are you talking about dollar invested? Are you talking about time, or talking about just the whole concept of training?
The whole concept, just the plan.
Okay, thank you.
It's definitely not a budget thing. When we first rolled this out, I was part at Woolies IT when we were rolling this out. And I don't know if you've ever heard of the Google principle, where they talk about, 10% of your work week is on your own projects and all that sort of stuff. When we rolled this out at Woolies, they all the IT guys were like, great, so 10% of my week I'll be in training. And 20% of my week I'll be networking. It's like, no, guys, just the development plan. All right. Then you guys would know nothing happens unless you put it in an action plan. So once you've decided on all of your menu, then you do your action plan with specific next steps is the key bit. So in a normal performance appraisal, where we sit down and talk about what's your training plan for this year, we go, yeah, you should go on this course and do that and be mentored by this person. And then it goes in the drawer. And then next year it comes back out. And we go, what did we say last year? Oh, yeah, you should go on that course. The key is, if you don't have all right, you employee go and research 3 different options for that course. I will go and check that the budget's there, and we will get back here next week and marry up those 2, and then you'll be responsible for registering it, and I'll make sure you got access to the credit card to pay for it. All right? It's practical next steps. Otherwise, this stuff goes in the drawer and you don't see it again for another year. Right? And then review and adjust. So just going and doing the development, just sending a person to a mentor doesn't always work. You've actually got to have some KPIs around it and sit down at the end of 3 months and go, okay, what did you learn at the course? What did you do back at work? How are we going to measure whether or not that was money well spent? All right. So if we go back to that first spreadsheet I showed you, you kind of go, has the person gone from a red to an orange? Have they gone from a red to a green? Do we think they're now in line to be one of the next leaders, all that sort of stuff? All right. So overall, take stock of your skills, brainstorm options, and it's really important when you're doing that 70-20-10 that you're actually engaging with your staff member and getting them to talk about it, because they've got to own it. If you push them off to a course, they'll be sitting there all day, and I know this because I'm the trainer that you send them to. They'll be sitting there all day going, oh, yeah, I got told I sucked at this, so my boss said I had to come. And they sit in the corner and they pout all day, right? I usually get them by about lunchtime, but then we've still wasted half a day, right? Action plan it and review and adjust. So it's a relatively simple process, but and I'm doing a lot of talking around it, but yeah, I think you see that there's a lot more to it in the background, even though it's just a simple four steps. And that's why we go, okay, that's why you come and talk to somebody about it and give you a couple of hints and tips on how to get there and a couple of templates to make it easy for you. And then I started off by saying that a whole bunch of people will be throwing spam at you to get you to go to their free training courses. I have told you before, I work with the local college, Northern Beaches Mossman College. I also train for TAFE at times. Even with companies like that, you still got to double check a few things. I believe in those guys, particularly the local college. They have genuinely good trainers that are really trying to do the right thing. But even with all of that, you need to make sure that you're asking yourself these questions before you jump at a free course. So whose plan are you working to? If you haven't done the 4 steps that I just told you about, you're just randomly chucking your people at stuff that won't sink in, right? So are you achieving your plan or theirs? Because they will guide you down to the path where they're getting the easiest money. It's just a thing. It's business. They're going to do that. Try and figure out what their track record is. Go and look up responses or feedback, Google reviews, all that sort of stuff, because people will sell you on a great learning experience. But the free training that says nothing's free down the bottom is usually based around a certificate program of some description, which means that there's assessments that need to be done, which means there's work outside of the actual day that needs to be put in there, right? So, and then it means that there's a whole bunch of admin that needs to be done so that your assessment gets marked and you get your certificate. And that's where people fall down. All of the online courses and all that sort of stuff, the feedback that you will find most of the time is that, yeah, I got the stuff, but nobody was there to help. Nobody marked my stuff. And 6 months later, I'm still waiting for a certificate. They're the sorts of things you need to look for because they're the people that aren't going to give you the support you need. Right? Think about who your trainer is going to be and what their background is. There's a lot of work in the training sector to make sure that trainers have to jump through a bunch of hoops before they are able to run certificate training and diplomas. But there's some career trainers that don't have a lot of real world experience and you just need to pick them out. Yep. And what's the real time required? Because they will all say that, and even the college does this, come and it's like 3 night sessions, 3-hour sessions. Wonderful, right? But it's a certificate 4 unit, which actually is like a month's worth of work. But we just do 3 face-to-face sessions. So you got a whole bunch of stuff going on. And you as the manager need to understand what they're actually learning there because you need to give them the chance to learn it and work on it back in the office, right? Or in the business. So there's all that stuff after the training course that you need to think about because without being too cynical, nothing's free. The government's throwing this money out there. When they do that, it just gets thrown. And people pick it up who are not the people that always genuinely care about you and your people. So you just need to be a little bit wary about what's going on. All right. This is just some of the stuff I do as a bit of a goodbye. So I run workshops, college, TAFE, and my own stuff. I develop learning content. I'm a change manager as well as L&D consulting. So L&D consulting is having this chat with a manager, right? And from this, if you go, well, yeah, I kind of need to think about this stuff for my staff because it hasn't clicked for me yet. This has been a rapid fire one. I don't talk this fast in a meeting. I'll step you through it. But if you think that any of this is something that you want to talk more about, obligation-free 30-minute chat. I'll put the Calendly link up in the chat in a sec, and that's it. All right. Thanks for hanging in there, guys. That's the prezzo. Oh, I got a clap. Thank you. Do you want to unmute for a sec?
Have you stopped recording? Or?
Well, first of all, before I stop recording, are there any questions based on that?
Matt, one of the things that I found over time is to get the best out of the staff doing it, the staff want to do it. If you force them into it, they won't do it, or they'll begrudgingly sit there and go through the day-to-day rigmarole. But if you can motivate them and tell them it's to their advantage, all of a sudden you get a better response.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's where I was like, you've got to engage them in the process and actually draw the plan up with them and go, where do you want to be and where do I want to be? And sometimes the development isn't actually straight up for your business. With a small business, sometimes you've actually got to have the guts to develop people for another business because you don't have the structure to let people go up and down your hierarchy because there isn't one, right? But if you're known as the breeding ground for really good talent that go on to become leaders in other organizations, then people are going to look for you and come, and you're going to get a better quality person coming in. People are scared of that, but it's what happens.